Travelers, and welcome to another episode of Tales of Teyvat, a Genshin Lore Podcast. Last week, we discussed our attempted savior Amber, who hung flyers on the top of windmills.
Silly churl. Hi, we're talking about Hu Tao.
Looking for a spooky good time in your web browser? Head on over to talesoftevat.com where you'll find a giant burning pyre of visuals for each episode that we do, ceremoniously curated by that big ol' flamer Tiff.
Our site also includes links to our previous episodes, all of which include an artist spotlight for each topic and some other goodies.
Finally, feel free to email us at talesoftevatpod@gmail.com to let us know what you think of this week's episode and what topics you'd like to see in the future. Now, I'd love to start by saying that Hu Tao is my Pyro DPS main. She's my highest hitter in Spiral Abyss, notoriously.
Like, overall.
Yeah, like she's hit 200k before.
Shut up, really?
But she's my only character to do that. Like, Child's hit like 140 before, but that's it.
Man, I was so excited about my 91k Raiden. Not anymore.
Well, there was a lot of Pyro reactions going on, I think, at the time, too. So you can't really... Like, I love Hu Tao, but it's definitely not my build doing that to her. You know what I mean?
I would love to see you do a vaporize Child and Hu Tao.
I've definitely have. Yeah. My last, I'm looking now, Hu Tao was the highest hitter in my last Spiral Abyss run, according to Hoyo Labs Battle Chronicle, at 184.
Yes, the spiral checker thingy-mabob.
Yes.
You know, you can see your highest crit as an achievement
In the Battle Chronicle?
in the game. If you go to your achievements and do like a search on your achievements, I think it starts with Purveyor, I want to say. So if you just search for the word Purveyor, it should show you.
Oh, wow. I'm looking at it now, and there's like a lot of things listed there, which is fun.
Mhm.
Like, a lot of them say completed, but some of them are like numbers. Wow, there are a lot of things here.
It's been going since you started the game.
Are you able to search?
Yeah, at the very top, there's a search.
So if you go to Purveyor, does that pull up the one I'm thinking of?
I'm getting there.
How do you spell purveyor?
Purveyor.
Purveyor of Punishment.
Yeah.
Deal over 50,000 crit. Oh, shit. My crit is 184,669.
Oh, nice.
My crit is 273,696.
Always
Wow.
showing me up. Beans.
I think that's higher than I.
I want to know who.
I know. I wish I had told you who did it. I'm sure mine was Mona.
Wait, how do I spell it again?
If you just search for PUR, it'll come up.
Oh, do I not have it?
PUR?
Like, it's not on her keyboard.
I guess mine is 148,854.
Ooh.
I don't have mine open. I want to say it's like 233 or something like that.
Brandon's going to come back to us like the day we launched this episode and tweet it. And he's going to be like, this is actually my highest crit. And it's going to be like 6 badillion.
No.
Yeah, I love my girl Hu Tao. And she probably did the 273 for all I know. So I love her. She's amazing.
Yeah, she's still probably one of the highest hitting DPSers in the game. I mean, I feel like she's eventually going to get kind of left behind, but I feel like she's still pretty up there, right?
I mean, especially if you have her best in slot weapon, Staphahoma. I was about to say Sapatoma, who also deserves that weapon.
I mean, that's Yato's weapon.
Oh my God, it just clicked. I was like,
did they not think it was funny?
I thought it was funny.
With Hu Tao, I know the only complaint I've ever heard about Hu Tao's build, Vanessa told me that some people don't like how long her like little animation is when she does her charged attack. The like super meta players don't like using her because it takes too long and it ruins their times. Which I don't get. So
that means all the new characters have that problem. Because I feel like they just keep getting longer.
Yeah, they're really leaning into Star Rail.
I love it. Don't get me wrong.
Well, you should play Star Rail.
No, but Zenless Zone Zero does have them long too.
I actually think you can be strategic with that. because I use them all the time to like not get hit by something.
All the time. Wait, can we just take a second though to note that Tiff refuses to play Honkai Impact the Third, Honkai Star Royale, but all of a sudden she's playing Zenless Zone Zero.
Mhm.
We'll see how long that lasts.
Sucks.
Probably not going to last very long.
I need to know. Are you a furry? Because are you joining me?
No.
Damn it!
Tiff is just playing it because it doesn't have the word honkai in it.
Yeah, basically. No, you know what got me was the little creatures.
Oh, the shark!
The Bangboos.
Yeah, the Bangboos are so adorable. So when I was watching our friend play it, I was like, wait, what is this? What is going on here?
Pom Pom never did that before to you.
Yeah, I don't know. Pom Pom didn't have that kind of, because like they're on the street like having conversations with one another too, and they're adorable.
I mean, I'm on the train having conversations with Pom Pom.
And then one's a shark. One has a bag on his head.
Yeah! Oh my god, the shark!
They're so cute.
Well, anyway, no more about that.
No more. Now, are you going to refuse to play that one because I'm playing it?
No, I just don't have an interest in it. I mean, I've never really like totally hated on Honkai or anything. Like, I don't like the gameplay of Honkai Impact the Third, but Brandon still sends me all the cutscenes and I watch them and get chills.
I meant more so if you were going to hate on me and not play it.
Yeah, I think you don't play Honkai because it's just girls and you don't have any men to lust over.
Kevin?
Yeah, he's not playable. He's not playable.
That's true. I love him. I love that man for just being Kevin. But back to Miss Hu. So Hu Tao is the 77th director of the Wangsheng Funeral Parlor in Liyue. The Wangsheng Funeral Parlor is the one and only funeral destination in all of Teyvat that I know of. And they really hold dear traditions and making sure that everyone gets the proper burial. And Hu Tao is in charge of that. Now, being in charge of a funeral parlor does not make you very important, unfortunately, in the Archon line, because she has a consultant named Zhang Li that deals with adeptal deaths, and aka dealing with Rex Lapis's death. So Hu Tao doesn't really have to deal with that. Instead, though, we do hear a little bit about Hu Tao from Zhang Li during the Archon quest, where we're talking with him and we find out that Hu Tao and the funeral parlor are being questioned by the Qixing because now they have been looking into how Rex Lapis died, and the Qixing thinks that the Fatui are involved. And apparently the Wangsheng Funeral Parlor is associated with the Fatui. Which I really couldn't find where that directly comes in. I don't know if that's because Zhang Li is associated with Child. I don't know if Child has a play in that.
Yeah, wait, where did that come from?
They say in the Archon, but
Yes.
I believe it's also
okay.
it's referenced somewhere else too. And I actually have like a crazy little theory about it.
Ooh.
It's not really a very far theory because it just steps on, and just to jump ahead a little bit, she's the 77th. We know who the 75th is. We never heard about the 76th. And I'm like, well,
Who's her father?
yeah, one of her parents, at least her mother or her father, whomever was actually the child of the grandfather. But I'm like, wait, if there's a Fatui connection and they're nowhere to be found, I don't know if I just went very mafia on that. And I'm like, they're sleeping with the fishes. They've been erased.
Welcome to New Jersey.
Welcome to Jersey.
But it is mentioned in there's like an NPC that approaches Zhang Li during the Archon quest Solitary Fragrance and has like a brief conversation. Zhang Li like leaves us because he has to go help Hu Tao with that. And of course, Hu Tao is probably over there like, just fuck off. What does it matter? I'm trying to deal with a funeral. Go away.
Yeah.
But that's like our first introduction to Hu Tao, which means you aren't really introduced to Hu Tao at all, unfortunately, because she's such
Yeah.
a great character.
Yeah, she really should have became like big in the beginning, but she made up for it.
Everyone was so excited for the teaser trailer. So like, ooh.
And, you know, speaking of her teaser trailer too, I think it's in her character demo, actually, which is Let the Living Beware. She's doing a ritual. I'm guessing a ritual to help, you know, the people move on to the afterlife. And these Fatui attack her and she's like, not even worth it. So I'm like, how does the funeral parlor have connections with the Fatui? But she's like, ugh, gross.
Mhm.
But like the other weird part about that, and we'll get into the relationship a little bit later, is Chi-Chi shows up in that one. And like she just shows up and she's like looking at the Fatui on the ground, like, what's going on? And Hu Tao's like, zombie, you scared. And I'm like, you're such a freak. Why are you yelling at this zombie?
I think that she's the true goth girl of the game.
Yeah,
like everyone's
yeah.
always like, oh, it's Kudro Sara or Rosaria. No.
Official.
It's Hu Tao.
I think we have like this age progression of goth. We got teen goth in Official, we got young adult goth in Hu Tao, and then we got adult goth in Kudro Sara.
And I think Hu Tao's is my favorite goth. She's got black nail polish. She's got like 60 rings on her fingers.
Yeah.
Besides the fact that she's wearing a funeral parlor outfit, that's her uniform. But like, imagine she got a skin and we got to see what Hu Tao just wears on the reg.
Yeah.
The hoodie returns.
Speaking of her skin, though, I have a very important question
About her skin.
Well, her outfit.
Oh, okay.
Not her actual skin.
I was like, ooh.
Hat. What about it? What do we think of the hat?
Oh, I like the hat. It's one of the few hats I don't hate.
It's an acceptable hat.
Yeah.
I have a theory. I think it's because, and it's similar to like the OG Klee hat, if it goes past the shoulders, I think it doesn't look right or it's too much.
You mean like the brim?
Yeah, the brim goes past the shoulders. It's too wide. But with Hu Tao, it like perfectly lines up.
I think I don't like hats with the brim at all. Because I guess maybe the front of her hat has a brim technically. I don't really know hat language. But yeah, I don't like a hat with like a circular brim around it. And hers is just a little more simple. Also, it has a really lovely backstory.
Yay.
Yeah, it does. It was her grandfather's.
Aww.
The 75th director, old Hu, and he passed it down to her. And apparently he was a big muscle guy, the giant head. So she spent an entire day and night modifying the hat to fit her.
Oh, that's cute.
And she loved her grandfather so much that she treasures the hat and will always keep it spotless. So even if the rest of her gets like completely filthy, she makes sure that her hat does not ever get dirty. And also, the fun fact, the plum blossom on the side of her hat is from a plum tree that she planted herself.
She's so crafty, that girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, and apparently she has a green thumb.
Yeah, and I think she gives those plum blossoms to Jingling too.
Yes.
For like different food and stuff like that.
She's definitely a friend of Leeway's. Like a lot of people think
Yeah.
that she's like sus and weird, but they're also like, meh, she's doing cool things, I guess.
I love her love for her grandfather. It's adorable.
Well, let's talk then a little bit about her grandfather and her early life. So we have a repetition from last week.
Yeah, we couldn't have planned that better, did we?
Yeah.
We have a grandfather that loves their grandchild, but we have no parents in sight.
And no explanation about the
Mhm.
parents.
Yeah. And no siblings. Note too that Amber and Hu Tao are both, as far as we know, only siblings.
But with Hu Tao, we know that at least one of her parents most likely was somehow in the picture at some point because of the director numbers, because her grandfather was the 75th, Hu Tao is the 77th. What happened to the 76th?
Hu Tao ran her grandfather's funeral.
Yes.
So is the assumption that like her grandfather got old, gave like one of her parents the hat, and then they were too full of grief to do it, so Hu Tao stepped up to the plate? That they died? Like,
Well, when he died, one of his last wishes was that Hu Tao conduct his funeral ceremony. So, Hu Tao was like many of the characters in this game, was very precocious as a child. And age 3, she was reading classic texts while doing handstands because she's always been eccentric. At age 6, she would cut classes and fall asleep in coffins.
true God.
At age 8, she began living in the funeral parlor and learning the ceremony etiquette. And then at age 13 is how old she was when her grandfather died. And that's when she had to actually conduct the funeral ceremony, which made all of the undertakers and consultants that worked there at the time very nervous because she was so unpredictable that they were like, God, what's going to happen? But she did an impeccable job. Everything went
Mhm.
perfectly.
You know what that means?
What?
She didn't rap.
Yeah. She did not rap during the funeral.
No, she recited beautiful poetry.
She's really good at separating her hobbies from her job.
Yeah. That makes me feel though that whoever was 76 like got ousted. Like the grandfather was like, okay, you had a few years. Like maybe he retired a little early, like 2 days before he was gonna die. And then the 76 jumped in and then he was like, yeah, you know what, kid, I don't like you. I like my grandchild a lot more.
Well, he wanted her to conduct his funeral ceremony, but it didn't say that she became the director.
She could have just been like an undertaker, I guess, at that point.
It might have just been her like a stepping stone. And, it was probably a few years later when she became the director.
That's true. I kind of went with that was when she took over too. But yeah, there's nothing that says that.
Is it possible too that her great uncle was the 76th funeral parlor director?
I don't think so, because they had a falling out.
But he was in the family business at the time. Is it possible they were the same age and or were similar enough in age that they both were directors?
He was the younger brother to the grandfather, and he was in the business, but I think the whole family always worked it. So it seemed like he was pretty young. It doesn't even really seem like the grandfather at the time was the director, because he wanted him to stay in Chen Vale with him. And he, the grandfather was like, no, I have to go back. And then he was like really mad at him because he was leaving the family business to then make a deal with a snake and die.
Yeah. So for those who don't know anything about Hu Tao's great uncle, who is nameless, he is also Baiju's master and mentor. So during Baiju's story quest, we learn all about the fact that Hu Tao's grandfather had a brother, and one day the two of them went to Chen Vale to meet with a pharmacist. And the brother really liked Chen Vale and liked some things going on there, and he decided he was going to stay. This did not go over well with Hu Tao's grandfather, as Tiff mentioned. They had a huge argument, and he stayed in Chen Vale, and they never spoke again. This guy ends up being next in line somehow to be Changshang's slave, and
slave.
I mean, yeah, like she's in charge. Let's be real. Like
he's just, using his energy, just eating away at that life source, man.
Truly. I mean, we know all of Changshang's human contracted people, because Changshang has these humans sign a contract with her, which is interesting because Zhongli and contracts in leeway, but they all die young. Like Hu Tao's great uncle died very young, but he ends up being the next contracted person with Changshang. He ends up mentoring not only Baizhu after Baiju's parents die because of a plague. He ends up, I even think, like basically being Baiju's like step-in parent, but also Zhongli, who we met in Baiju's story quest. Her husband is super sick and we're trying to help. He's described as someone who was incredibly selfless and put other people's first, opting to use Changshang's powers to help the patients and not himself. And Baizhu notes on him that I understood my master's intentions. He hoped that I would be able to put myself more in the patient's shoes and not ever be swayed by external factors. He really did have a compassionate heart and was always ready to sacrifice himself for others. It's unfortunate that he passed so early.
It makes a lot of sense storytelling wise why they did that whole branch of Baiju's story, because Baizhu and Hu Tao are sort of at a base level at odds philosophically. You have one person trying to keep the balance of life versus death. You have the other person trying to prolong life. That isn't even limited to Baiju's quest to prolong his own life because of Changshang. It's also just like that's the role of a doctor. And you have the same kind of story going on with Hu Tao's hero, which is her grandfather, and his brother, who decided to quit the family funeral business to become a doctor.
It's also a really interesting juxtaposition to how the Wangsheng Funeral Parlor was even originally created, because it was started by whoever first generation Hu was, and they were a doctor. So back during the Archon War, all these god remains were everywhere. And, we know Zhongli started having the Yaksha start cleaning shit up. As we said, the Yaksha cleaning company, last in your yellow pages. And the karma that the Yakshas were creating would end up plaguing people in Liyue Harbor and killing them. And the people thought it was a curse from the gods because of the Archon War. But it says that a flame talked to Hu Tao's ancestor, basically, and told him that this could be cured by purifying the air and then burning the infected bodies.
Ah, yes, Black Death.
Yes, and so this doctor, who was considered a merciful doctor, like they said he was a good person, basically, started the Wangsheng Funeral Parlor as more of a doctor's office, actually. With my assumption is basically that they would come in, and if they were going to die, they'd make sure they had a nice, pleasant death, as good as it could be, and then burn the shit out of their bodies.
Right.
with the staff of Homa.
With the staff of, well, actually, yes, because the staff of Homa actually tells us most of this lore.
Yeah.
And the staff of Homa is Hu Tao's weapon of choice.
Destined slot, baby of the staff of Homa. It says to cleanse by fire all that is impure, to allow the impurities to rise with the flames onto the all-accommodating high heavens. These rites would see fresh tinder that during the rainy seasons and wolf smoke would arise from those fires as prayers for blessings and the defeat of evil.
Yeah, and it's actually really fun because it mentions the fact that they're going to basically create ashen butterflies from the flames. And we all know that, you know, Hu Tao has this symbolism of butterflies amongst her. And even when she like does her sprint, she disappears and butterflies appear and then she comes back.
There's a lot of symbolism within butterflies and death. And looking to Chinese culture, there's a lot of like, when you look at painted fans or painted scrolls, they have like a lot of butterfly iconography, but it's almost universal internationally that there are cultures that look to butterflies as like messengers of the dead. And each color means a different message, but ashen butterflies or black butterflies are kind of like the symbol of the cycle of life. Like you are from this kind of funeral pyre, you have ashen butterflies that rise. So you have the phoenix rising. And then, of course, red butterflies are to kind of symbolize messages from those who have passed on, who had very passionate lives, who are sending, you know, love and happiness and saying, like, I'm living on. So it's really cool that they tie that in because that's so niche of a cultural symbolism. And like, you wouldn't really know that. And even if we like decode Wangsheng, like if you break that down, depending on the pronunciation you go for, it can mean to be reborn, to live in paradise, you know, if you're dead, if you've died, or it could be prosperity. So it's really interesting of how deep they went into death and also how kind of weird this death symbology is compared to what we know happens to souls in this game.
Actually, it's funny you say that because in Hu Tao's character teaser, she's trying to help us out of the mountain, and it's really kind of spooky because you're like, is this chick gonna murder me right now? And she basically suggests that butterflies are our guides in the world because they want to be Seelies when they grow up.
Yeah,
Aww.
I thought that was adorable.
It's so adorable. There's actually, when looking at the messages or like the different type of butterflies and what messages they bring, purple butterflies are supposed to be spiritual insight, which I'm surprised it wasn't a purple butterfly.
But I'm very curious about in the character teaser if that's just Hu Tao being goofy or if it really means something else, since Hu Tao is the border of life and death for a lot of people. And even with her constellation, which is Papilio Carontis, which means the butterfly of Sharon, I think it's Sharon. And Sharon in the Greek world is the ferryman of the underworld. And so he's the one who's like, get on, bitches, we're going to hell. And he brings people down to the underworld. And so I think it's interesting because she might know more than she's letting on. And to go back to her grandfather, you know, we mentioned that he died and that 10 days later she did his funeral. What we didn't mention is that after his funeral, Hu Tao ran away and she went and found the border between life and death, and she climbed into the border and entered purgatory basically to find her grandfather.
Yeah.
And she never found him, which is like the hardest part of the whole thing, but also great because she finds this like spirit in there that's like, oh, you're looking for like your grandfather? He's not here because he lived a fulfilling life and he had no regrets. So he moved on instantly.
Yeah, and this also kind of showcased the absence of her parents to me because so her grandfather died when she was 13. She conducted the funeral ceremony, and then I believe it was the same night she like packs her things and runs away to Wu Wang Hill because that's where, you know, the border between life and death is, which I got questions about why the Wangsheng Funeral Parlor has dominion over this border between life and death. That's very intriguing to me. But so yeah, she waited, like you were saying, she waited for days until her rations were gone, waiting for her grandfather, and he never showed. So she's gone for days. And then she talks to this other spirit that's like passing over who's like, oh no, like that's one of the Who's. Like they know better than to wait around. And then Hu Tao, of course, is like, oh, she's right. Like my grandfather lived a life without regrets. So he knew how precious life was and that you have to go through things without regrets. So whenever he got here, he immediately would have passed over. And so then she goes home. That's how she got her vision, what she discovered in her bag. But it's like you're gone and then you go home. The lore doesn't tell us anything about like her parents. Were like, where on earth were you? Like we were so worried. You disappeared for days. You come back like starving. Like
Like the fuck?
it was just like, no, she came back and then she found her vision and then that's all we get.
But it's also interesting because despite the fact that her parents are never mentioned, she still is said to be sneaking. Like she climbs over a wall to come back. So is she just fucking around? Or is it like the other Undertakers? Like
Yeah, exactly. Like maybe they were off at the meeting with the Saritsa.
oh no. Her parents are being yeeted. You know, we've had all these thoughts that Pantalone is Xingqiu's brother, but maybe Pantalone is her father.
Maybe.
Ooh.
Whoa.
It would explain why Hu Tao has a lot of money, because Hu Tao is known to be Zhongli's wallet #1 until his child shows up.
Funerals are expensive.
That's true.
Yeah, but like she's offering them to the dead people, not the people that are gonna be, you know, buying that funeral
it's to
for
the
them.
live people.
It's to the live people. She literally offers us a coupon at one point and is like, do you have any companions? Because I'm doing like a buy one, get one.
Yeah.
You know, I was thinking about that. I was kind of thinking that maybe she's doing that because she's trying to basically get people to prepay for their funeral. And I think the reason might be that the Wangsheng's philosophy is that everyone deserves a respectful ceremony regardless of their social standing or wealth. So I have a feeling that even if someone can't afford the funeral that they want, they give it to them anyway. So maybe that's why she's out like trying to get people to prepay.
Yeah.
Because she's like, if you can't afford it after you die, we're going to give it to you anyway. So could you at least give us some money?
I think if it's not in her story quest, it's in her teaser where she basically asks us if we have a date in mind of when we're going to die. Because that'll help get it on the books.
Well, Hu Tao, if I don't find my sibling anytime soon, that timeline is going to progress. If I keep helping all these archons with their bullshit instead of finding my goddamn sibling.
We don't get answers. God, so help me.
I want to say too, like that she makes mention at some point, and it must be it is the story quest, but and I don't know if this part was though, where she's kind of like, you know, sometimes there's people who have to just kind of wait around and wait for their day, and then they just go, and we just finish it all out, and you know, she's very nonchalant about it all, but the picking of the date I thought was very funny.
Which, can we talk about her story quest a little bit? What exactly happens in this? It's a lot.
It is a lot because it kind of goes into a few different things that really teaches us a lot about her and about the funeral parlor. But we run into her when we're up in Wubong Hill. We run into her and her new Undertaker monk. And just like everything with Hu Tao, she just drags us into it of talking about the funeral parlor and offers us a coupon and tells us the whole thing about the date and everything like that. And like we had first scared Mung though, like he thought we were like ghosts or whatnot. And she calls us clients. She's like, those are just our clients, you know, they're not ghosts. And we're like, well, we're not really your clients, but we're adventurers. And she's like, well, yeah, I want the Adventurers Guild to be my clients because, you know, adventurers, you're gonna die. You're going to do something silly and you're going to die. I want that to count.
Doesn't she say that adventurers are her best clients?
I mean, we are.
I just imagine her picking up people like after they fell off a rock because they ran out of stamina.
Do.
But they were doing like a funeral ritual and stuff like that. So we go over to the Adventurers Guild with her to try and propose this crazy deal with land. And we're like, hey, she wants to get you to be in this account. Of course, nobody goes for it because that's just the way it is. And like she kind of explains like her little systems of her tiles that she has outside the funeral parlor where like you can write down what you want, and then she has coupons written on the back of them too, so this way while you're like slipping the paper under the door of what you want for your funeral, you can also get a discount. You know, she's economical.
No.
So we basically follow her around Leeway Harbor as she's like seemingly trying to sell the services of the funeral parlor. And we're like, okay, like why are we part of your marketing department?
Oh yeah. She's like, you want to make my website next?
Yeah. She says though at the end, she's like, oh, well, that wasn't anything to do with business development. That ended when we finished talking to the Adventurers Guild. We're doing this because we're trying to find this ghost who's stuck in the mortal realm and is connected to Monk. Like his name is Big G, and we're the people that we talked to all I thought could be, he could be following them.
Did anyone else, when they saw that his name was Big G, I instead just called him B.I.G.
Like Notorious B.I.G.?
Yeah! It's just, I don't know why, because I'm like Big G, B.I.G.
I like it when you call me Big Papa.
Oh my god. That's
Yeah.
meanwhile during this whole story quest, Zhongli is left alone in the Wangsheng Funeral Parlor singing that.
Yeah. And if you don't know, now you know. That's enough of my rapping. See, I'm
No,
like
keep going.
I stan it.
I'm just as bad as Hu Tao. But yeah, so yeah, we go back to the funeral parlor, and Meng tells us the story about how Big G was his friend. He grew up in a place outside Wulong Hill, and they were a bunch of friends, and this kid tragically died because it's Genshin. So, which we don't actually find out how he died, but I have a feeling it was Meng's fault somehow, or like the friend's fault. Like, I feel like they had something to do with it because they have a lot of like guilt that they talk about.
Yeah.
And like he does go into the whole fact that he feels guilty that he's alive and the kid's dead, but that makes me feel like there was a train coming and he like pushed him in the way. Like he got out of the way, like sacrificed him or something.
I almost got the vibe because we find out that they were both kids at the time when they died too, right? So I almost got the vibe that like he feels guilty because now as an adult he knows what he could have done to save his friend. But like he fell in a river or something and he didn't know what to do, or like he should have jumped in but he ran and got an adult type of thing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, that's a sensible thing to do, but
Not falling in a river again.
yes.
Wait, who else fell in the river? Who was the other murder?
The ghost girl.
Little 9.
The one that you thought Chen the Ninth murdered. Right?
Yeah, it was Little 9. I still think that. So I still hold true to that.
We need to list out all of your murder theories. They're good.
Yeah, who else dead? Who else dead or is going to die? It's like half the characters in the game.
I mean, all the characters are gonna die, so.
Oh, thank you, Hu Tao.
Hu Tao about to get rich.
Hu Tao is clapping when I say that. She's like,
Yeah.
Well, if they all die and can't pay, though.
Oh, that's true. Pay first and then go die.
Wait, if Hu Tao approaches a cult, does she offer them a Groupon?
She does give group discounts.
Shut the fuck up. That's actually why she's Fatui affiliated, because she gave them a group rate.
She's like, these fuckers are gonna die a lot.
Zhongli convinced Child to come on over. That's like Zhongli's biggest claim to fame with Hu Tao.
I wonder if she offers it to the Shimatsuban. Like, oh wait, child soldiers?
Perfect.
Look, check out our rates.
Yeah.
Since you're only half the size, we only have to use smaller coffins.
Yeah.
We'll give you a discount.
Or we can fit 2 bodies into one.
Ooh, do you have siblings?
That's the buy one, get one. They're all in one place. She didn't tell you that part. And if you die before your companion, we'll just get rid of them so this way you can go along with them.
We'll just cut it in half.
Yeah.
We'll just
fine.
hammer on like a one piece. That's great. We got Wagner and all the carpenters at the bot. But what happens next? So Notorious B.I.G. comes in.
Well, first we have a random guy comes by the funeral parlor and he says he's possessed by a demon after he goes to Wulong Hill. And of course, Meng is like, see, because like Meng feels like his like somehow because he would go to Wulong Hill and like pray for Big G and like want to kind of hope that he could see him. Like he's working at the funeral parlor for no pay. He just wants Hu Tao to help him potentially find his friend's spirit because he feels like after he was at Wulong one day, he feels like Big G's been following him around and can't rest and is like waking him up in his sleep, like from bad dreams and things like that too. So he thinks he's turned his little baby friend into a demon. So when this dude, Luocheng, I think is
Luocho?
Luocha from Honkai Star Rail,
Yes, he's here. He has a coffin.
aka Auto Apocalypse from Honkai Impact the third.
Who's in his coffin? It's Hu Tao waiting to give you a deal.
Well, when Otto shows up over in Liyue Harbor, he says that he's possessed after he went to Wu Wang Hill, and kind of explains the same thing that Meng has been saying he's been kind of feeling. So Meng then's like, oh my god, Big G is following him around, and like he's a demon and he's going to possess him, and things are just going to go real bad. And Hu Tao's like, you know what, we'll go perform an exorcism. So we go to this special place, which is actually at one of those ley line monoliths, so that they do have a purpose. They're there for exorcisms, apparently. We do the whole big thing, like the whole 9 yards, like a whole ritual. Afterwards, she's like, Auto Apocalypse, how do you feel? And he's like, I am better. The spirit has been lifted off of me. I feel great. I'm no longer possessed. All this stuff. He's going on. And she goes, well, that's great because I pranked you. Like outright. She doesn't even try. She's just like, this was all fake. None of this happened. She's like, and he's like, what do you mean? Like, how can this have been fake? I feel better. And she's like, that's because you made up the story in your head, because people are afraid of death. And that's the biggest problem, and why there is this veil between life and death, because people are afraid of it, and they're afraid of ghosts and spirits and things like that. So they get like an idea in their head, and it kind of goes into this big ball. And like she kind of explains a little bit even into the funeral parlor's history a little bit with us on a side note too, of like how that chaos kind of happened, like you had explained before. So she's like, you shouldn't be afraid of these things. It's natural. She is very in tune with death is a part of the cycle of life. So therefore it's just like, it's just like how you age and have a birthday, you age and you die, and that's just it. So she makes them feel better. And then like Meng's like, oh, I think I feel pretty good. That means that Big G wasn't actually terrorizing this guy. And like, maybe what's going on, like nothing of this happened. Like we still have to figure out like, why is he still running about? And all of a sudden Big G just shows up. And just like the rest of us, who probably all said Big G, not really thinking the fact that he had already said that they were kids, didn't expect a little petite little kid to show up. And like Paimon's like, that's not who I thought we were gonna see. She's like, that's Big G. I'm like, what?
Paimon's like, I'm bigger than Big G.
Yeah, basically. She's like, let's think about sizing here. So we don't know how he got that name either, which I would love to know, just because I think it would be very funny, because you know how kids are with stupid names. They go back to the funeral parlor because they're like, Hu Tao's like, we're going to help Big G. Like, we're not going to just leave him hanging about. She explains that really what happened was when he left for Liyue Harbor, he actually did follow the guy who thought he was possessed. He just couldn't find his way back, and he was just hanging about there. He's really just bad with directions.
Same.
You just get lost in Liyue Harbor too.
Yeah, and then I start stalking people and they think I'm haunting them, and I'm like, no, I just want to know which way to go. Where's the alchemy table?
So Hu Tao's like, well, what we need to do is like, we need to have a little ritual, and we're gonna send Big G on his way, and things are gonna be good. But she's like, we need to collect some keepsakes and stuff like that to kind of have like the friends kind of say goodbye. But you can't tell the friends that Big G's a ghost and hanging out here, because people freak out. So we find out that the people that we questioned earlier are Meng's friends from back when. And we kind of go over and we ask like, hey, so you remember your friend and all this stuff? And they all figure out that there's something going on. And like, they even say like, well, we thought it was kind of sus that Meng was working for the funeral parlor. We know that he's always had this like guilt about Big G's death. Again, something happened there. We collect all these keepsakes so this way they can have a goodbye, and they don't come with us for the ritual or anything. Like we get our stuff and we go. So we're going to go and do this whole big thing. That's when she kind of explains like she's the guardian of the border between living and the dead. That's her deal. So she brings us over to this domain to have this farewell ceremony. And like she says, it's an ordinary place that people just don't know that it's the border between life and death, because it's like a rock. Imagine if you were walking around though one day and you were like, I need to sit for a second because I'm really tired. And you decided to like lean back and then over into the border.
It's really cute that the underworld or like the afterlife is coming from like rocks, because in Greek mythology, that's primarily where they would say, the entrance for Hades is usually within like caves and rock formations and all this stuff. So that's really cute.
Yeah, she says that it's not quite hell. It's just a place where the ley lines go a little haywire.
It's called purgatory.
Call it, yeah, they don't use the word purgatory, but it seems like that's what they're saying. Like it is, it's this middle ground. Of course, we go working through this whole domain and all this stuff, and there's other people. We find out that Hu Tao has us doing like extra work for her too, because she has other clients that need to cross.
She's like, ay, ay, ay.
She's like, I got stuff to do. Well, that's what she always says, Aya.
Aya.
Yeah. You were very close to it, though. That was funny. So we kind of are there and we're kind of going this whole domain. And basically, Big G and Mung get to have this like little sidebar where they're kind of get to have their little goodbye. And we kind of leave them alone. So this way they can have this little goodbye. Before that kind of happens, though, we do see a memory. We see a memory of Mung, Big G, and the three others friends, and they're all kind of telling us like wishes, and it was wishes they were making before the last lantern right before Big G died. And we just kind of hear them go through the whole thing, and at the end, after he sees off Big G, he says, well, that was my wish, was that when me and Big G grew up and had our own families, we would take them and go to the lantern right together. He's like, and that's not something that could ever happen.
Aww.
And I was like, this was really funny until right now. I was like, that just got so sweet and so sad. Like the whole thing. And like, so a lot of his guilt may not have been because he murdered him, but maybe it's just because my whole childhood, all I wanted to do was grow up with my best friend and take our kids to go see the lanterns at Lantern Rite.
Prize.
So Hu Tao then also lets us know, like, we're out of the domain and everything like that. She also lets us know, though, all those people all the things we were doing to help her, she was actually asking people for clues about our sibling. And she knows that they're not there. They're not in the in-between. And none of the dead folks kind of know anything. So that kind of gives us a little bit of a glimmer of, we now still kind of feel like, okay, our sibling's still alive somewhere, and at least isn't stuck in purgatory and leeway.
Hu Tao did something.
Yeah, both times she kind of like made it seem like we were like her employee, and she was really actually helping us. But yeah, that's kind of where it all ends up, is she's like, sorry, I got nothing for you. But at least she didn't put posters on the top of windmills.
Like a certain other parentless Pyro character who's also brunette.
Because again, I'm obsessed about the posters being on the top of the fucking windmills. I'm not over it.
Hu Tao has such an eccentric, happy personality for someone who has to deal with shit like that on a regular basis.
Well, somebody said before, she separates her work from her hobbies. Like, she's got a very clear-cut, like, business during the day, and at night she's like, I don't want people. I'm just gonna go wander in the dark by myself, and I'm gonna go write poetry, and I'm gonna do my own thing. People have said that like she can play a 4-person game by herself and be entirely happy.
It's called being an only child.
She like literally does play 4-player card games by herself at night for hours. Like, people have seen her do it.
When it came to TCG, she already knew it. She taught us and Kazuo a little bit about it, right?
Yes.
Well, we kind of already knew, but we let her think that she was teaching us.
It was when Kazuo was first learning all about TCG, and it was when we learned that Hu Tao is a fucking creep.
No, she just had a crush.
Maybe she was just
Creepy
trying to
crush.
make him feel better about Toma's death. She was just cheering him up.
Oh.
Isn't it the same time, though, that like Kazuo is then like talking to Kaching, and she gets so jealous? She's like in the background, like, I'm not really here.
What if Hu Tao connected so much with Kazuo because Tomo was with him?
Oh.
And so Hu Tao is more so like, oh, who is this dead presence? And then when it seems like Kazuo and Kaching are flirting, it's not necessarily Hu Tao that's getting upset, but Tomo. Hu Tao's like, don't worry, I'm keeping an eye on them.
Yeah.
You just gave me the feels again.
Tomo's like, Kazuwa, you're meant to be mine, so until you die, you have to be single.
Well, I don't like that.
Or until I possess a body. Tomo's a little possessive. No.
Yeah.
I love The new headcanon for Feeny. I hate Tomo. He's a jerk.
The worst part is that I went from Hu Tao and Kazuo would be the cutest couple to fucking Tomo. No, we all know I'm going to talk more about my favorite Hu Tao ship later. But while we're on the topic, though, someone mentioned poetry. Hu Tao actually writes poetry with one other person, and it's Xingqiu.
Oh, yeah. Also, I didn't know that she became famous for her poetry because of the Hilly tune.
Really?
Silly churl, silly churl. It's fucking catchy.
Yeah, it is. But it's her most famous work. It's well loved all over Liyue, especially by children. And people like have gone to the Wanwen book house to look for her poetry because of the popularity of it.
Mm-hmm.
But her anthologies have not yet been published, even though they totally have names. They are named Fiddlesticks and Of Common Lives.
Seem like such different stories.
It's also what got Xingqiu's attention, and that made him want to meet her for the first time. So he met up with her and brought her a gift.
So courteous.
Yeah, so polite. They got along really well, and then they decided to have a poetry spar.
Yeah, it was like a rap battle.
Yeah. And their styles are so different because, of course, Xingqiu's is more traditional and artistic, and Hu Tao's is like strange and catchy and, you know, marvelous. And Hu Tao ended up winning their little spar because she was so surprising that it left Xingqiu speechless. And that's sort of how their friendship began. Like they've been meeting up ever since then and like reading and composing together. And then they brought in Xiangyun to be like the scorekeeper. And then that's sort of how they became like three friends, quote unquote.
Yeah, does Xiangyun like Hu Tao though? It seems like he is brought along because he's like the third wheel of this friendship.
Yeah, he has a negative voice line about her, right?
Well, his negative voice line is that she kind of looks down on exorcists. But I think she's doing it in a, like, I know you're going to get mad, so I'm going to say this type of way.
So she's provoking him.
Yeah, because Xiangyun says, whenever I see that cheeky smile say, it's nothing you exorcists need to worry about, it makes his blood boil.
She's like poking the bear.
Oh,
He
yeah.
needs to be careful about that. His blood pressure.
Well, I guess Xingqiu pokes the bear too, though. Maybe they like him like that.
Well, I think it's like they both want to see what he can do. They're like, we want to see yang energy.
Yeah.
Well, Hu Tao does. I think Xingqiu just likes it rough.
I mean, and that's why he wants to see yang energy. I mean, Xingqiu has literally made it so that Xiangyun has destroyed the Wanmin restaurant. And he's like always trying to give Xiangyun his carrots and all stupid things. But no, they're a really good friend group. And I think it was after the dinner in Lantern Rite of 2023, where she's like, all right, I'm going to walk my friends home to make sure they get home safe. She like is conversing with them down by the docks, and she's like trying to figure out if Xingqiu has a book published because she knows that he's writing a book, but Xingqiu hasn't told anyone that his book is published and doing well. So Hu Tao's like trying to get it out of him. She's like, tell me your fucking secrets, kid.
Do you think that a dead person told her?
It's definitely possible. Or it's, over Xingqiu's father's dead body. But I don't know. During that same dinner, Hu Tao and Venti become best buds, and they like each other's poetry so much that they end up hosting a poetry event together to bring together Mondstadt and Liyue. And we don't really learn a lot about Hu Tao in that event, but man, her and Venti running an event and becoming besties must have pissed Zhongli off so much.
That's so true.
While we're on the topic of Zhongli, I know Zhongli is said to not like Hu Tao, but I don't believe it.
I don't either. I think he just gets aggravated by her as a youngster sometimes. He's like, I can't deal with all this energy.
Feel like, because in his voice line about her, where he's like, oh, I can't deal with that child, he goes ahem at one point. And I just think that's him, like, trying to put on, like, a facade. And that he really does love Hu Tao. And Hu Tao says that, she thinks Zhongli might be an adeptus or something, but she's not really going to bring it up to him. She calls him an encyclopedia in her trailer.
Mm-hmm.
And she says that he is the one person she really trusts.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's training as a quote unquote consultant. He's been training the undertakers at her business so well that it's really kind of skyrocketed the reputation of the funeral parlor while she's been the director of it to just really boost its reputation as a really serious business that will get everything perfect for the client's wishes from like all different walks of life, all different cultures, you know. Whenever they finish the workday, she actually brings in consultants regularly to train her staff from different regions or from different walks of life to say, okay, this is what the funerals over here would look like. This is what the people would want to happen. So they're always being trained. And Zhongli is sort of like the ultimate lecturer consultant to train the employees. So even though he works for her, he's really kind of the one that has uplifted the funeral parlor and given it such a good rep among the people in the harbor.
And they spend most of their lantern rites together, which is really sweet. And there's a voice line about Hu Tao, which it's a crazy voice line. But at the end, she says that she's going to have a heart-to-heart on the meaning of life with the Statue of the Seven.
Yeah.
I almost wonder if like Zhongli like has conversations with her through the statues because he like respects her so much. And he's willing to like divulge in her having these like conversations with his dead self type of thing.
Honestly, I thought she was just being cheeky, but that's awesome.
Well, the thing with Hu Tao is you can't tell if she's being cheeky or if it has a deeper meaning.
Yeah.
That's what I think I love about her so much. Is I say this as someone who loves tarot and messes with the spirit realm. If I was a spirit, I'd fuck around. I'd be like, oh yeah, you want sage advice? I would troll. And that's what I think she kind of encapsulates in a way.
Yeah, that's very true. She'd be the type of person where you'd be like trying to talk to like your dead parent and she'd be like, they told you to fuck off. And you'd be like, taking it back. She'd be like, just kidding. They said they miss you, Pookie.
Yeah.
It's like they miss you, but also wash your ass.
Yeah, basically. I saw you picking your nose yesterday.
Exactly.
You know, the idea of her talking to Zhongli through the Statue of the Seven, though, like she says that at the end of this little story, but it almost makes sense of the story because she one day just decides to start talking to the two stone lion statues outside the Ministry of Civil Affairs. And she names them Whiskers and Mittens and she pets them and she washes them and like all this stuff. And there's like all these bystanders who like are like taking care of a stray cat at the kiosk and she's like, well, your cat's cute, but you know, the same can be said about mine. Their fur might be hard, but it's still fluffy.
Wait, okay, no, I wanted to talk about this because it's so freaking hilarious. Like, first of all, this weirdo is like sneak over to the Ministry of Civil Affairs like at midnight and like the guards are like, what, there's a thief nearby, what's happening? And then they like realize it was just Hu Tao playing with these statues, these stone lions. And yeah, she named the one on the left as Whiskers and the one on the right as Mittens. And she would bring buckets of water and a brush and like very slowly bathe them. Think about how creepy this would look.
In the middle of the night and like
bathing, very slowly and deliberately bathing a stone lion and like talking to it. So they actually got bummed out though when she eventually stopped coming around because they had to start cleaning the statues themselves. And when they asked her why she stopped, she said, Whiskers and Mittens are adults now and can take care of themselves. Excuse me, I'm running late for my heart-to-heart with the Statue of the Seven regarding the meaning of life. And then, like what Tiff was just saying about the real cat, there's this real calico cat that hangs out near the Xingwei kiosk, which is close to those lions. And there was this group of people that were playing with that cat, and Hu Tao got so jealous that these people were playing with this other cat and not her pet stone lions. And she literally said, sure, your kitty's cute, but the same can be said about my Whiskers and Mittens. Their fur might be harder, but they're still just as fluffy. Any animal that brings people joy may become a pet. And when it comes to majestic looks, your little fur ball simply can't measure up to my lions. What kind of crazy ass?
Yeah.
Like, imagine you're petting a cat on the street and some wackadoo like comes over and starts berating you like, oh, your cat's not as cute as mine. And you're like, what are you talking about? And then you realize that she's talking about two statues behind her. Like, yeah, people are going to think you're cray cray.
I love it.
Doesn't that make you question though too, like, are there actually spirits living in those statues?
Yeah, from what you said about Zhongli potentially talking through the stone statue of himself, could they have been talking to her? But she needed, like I said before, she doesn't want people to know about the ghosts because they're going to freak the fuck out. But it makes sense then, though, that she was doing that because she was hanging out with the ghosts.
It's true.
It's also very common in Chinese folklore that statues of lions do have guardian spirits that rest inside them.
Like in Mulan.
Like in Mulan. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I mean, that's where Mushu comes from.
Yeah, he's just a statue of a dragon. Yeah, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the whole theme of like just the importance of stone and Liyue and imbuing powers or spirits within it. I mean, remember when Zhongli imprisoned a bunch of creatures within stone?
Yeah.
You know, who knows what's lurking in the stone around Liyue Harbor?
Well, interesting that you say that, Brandon, because did you know that Wu Wang Hill was like involved in like some crazy folklore?
No, let's hear it.
So in Wu Wang Hill, it's a deserted ruin. That's what they consider it. And we actually know a few people who are from that area. And they tell us about a disaster that like completely like killed the village off. People died, a lot of things happened. And the disaster that they're talking about refers to like a folklore that a sea monster ensnared the use of Wu Wang Hill. And using a whale-like song, so basically Child came out of the primordial sea with his whale, and or Moon over in Watasumi Island came over with her whale friend. One of them came over, I don't know who, and they lured the children to the Shui River and drowned them. And this like drowning of children from this whale went on for years until only old people lived there.
Oh my god.
And all those people like died eventually on their own from like illnesses or old age. And the ley lines in that area are said to have absorbed the hopes and dreams of those who died. And the ley lines are therefore recreating all the elemental energy from these dead people. And that's why there's so many ghost lights and floating around and haunting the area.
So did it just say it was a sea creature or did it say it was a whale?
Sea monster singing a whale-like song.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then the Hidden Palace of Zhou Formula domain, which is there, the description for the domain is that there's a secret ritual that can conceal one gate out of 8, cutting off the route for evil to escape. This ritual was performed here long ago, sealing demons within this labyrinth. Rumor has it that the method to fit pillars with Zhou Formula presently seal an evil chi. And we know we have that chi event with like the 7,000 ruin guards in Kinsei Village too. So Chi keeps coming up. And on top of that, in Hu Tao's character demo, we actually see her doing a ritual at Wu Wang Hill where she's like burning stuff, I'm assuming bodies. So it's just interesting that there's a lot coming together. And when she's doing her ritual, she sit before the Fatui interrupt her. She goes, "Order of duality, impermanence of fate. I raise this butterfly to guide thee." So she's fully bringing in her butterfly motif.
Aww.
Also, something interesting about Hu Tao when it comes to life and death. I know, Brandon, you were saying, or Tiff, someone was saying earlier how much she respects like death. And that's just a part of life. And when Hu Tao does her elemental attack, she actually loses HP. And I feel like that's a nod to her. Being like, I have to live life to the fullest. And if I happen to die here, I happen to die here. But I'm going to sacrifice some of myself to put into this battle.
It's so important when it comes to death rites to kind of get it right. And it can cause so much havoc. I mean, we've seen disgruntled spirits in the chasm. We've seen like issues with the remnants of, you know, the death of gods. And even in our own world and our own like cultures, if someone's not properly buried or someone's not properly entombed or put to rest, there's a good idea that a lot of people will think their spirit will not be at peace. I mean, if you look to, and this is coming straight from my anthropology background, the Wari tribe from Brazil, their rites for, their death rituals involve partly cannibalism and cannibalistic activities. And when Brazil outlawed that, a lot of people in the Wari tribe don't believe their loved ones can be at peace because they can't honor them in the way that they need to.
Mm-hmm.
Death is the universal. It's the universal finality, and ain't nobody getting out of this of life alive. And you just want people to be at peace, and what they hold meaning for them that will make them be at peace is so important, not just for that spirit, but for the loved ones that are left.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is why Chi-Chi is such an interesting case in Hu Tao's mind.
Oh my, yeah, because she's like, what? Like, you have been dead. You have passed, and honestly, I think the adepti gave her as best a burial as she could probably have thought she would have wanted. And here she still is.
Well, I think what's the most interesting about Hu Tao is that she does eventually have a 360 in her opinion. So it's nice to see that Hu Tao can change her mind. She's open-minded, which is nice. But yeah, Hu Tao, when she first finds out about Chi-Chi, is like, yo, this is the wrongest thing I've ever seen in my life. This needs to be resolved. And we all know that Chi-Chi has a horrible memory. And because of Hu Tao, Chi-Chi has actually seen improvements in her memory because she can remember hiding spots from when Hu Tao is around. She actually knows who Hu Tao is. She describes Hu Tao as having a punchable face.
Yeah, and she says, I despise Hu Tao.
It's great.
But Hu Tao does have a 360 after attempting to kidnap Chi-Chi multiple times.
Yeah, because that's rude.
She thought that she was trying to put Chi-Chi out of her misery and didn't realize Chi-Chi was given that life by the adepti.
Mm-hmm.
And she didn't understand like the whole backstory of why she's a zombie. So she thought she was doing the right thing, but and would like apologize. She would send apology letters to Chi-Chi like, I'm sorry I wasn't able to burn you in time before you were rescued.
Yeah, like she still wants to go on and like still makes little jokes and stuff with her.
Yeah, and Chi-Chi is just like terrified, and then she eventually is like, oh, I get it, and now she tries to like pamper Chi-Chi, and Chi-Chi's still like, no, stay the fuck away from me. I hate your guts. I want to throw you in a fridge, is what Chi-Chi says.
Hu Tao originally thinks that like Chi-Chi's situation is Baiju's fault. You're looking for eternity, and you're doing it with the zombie gal who is probably dying of sadness.
But I don't think she knows why Baiju is looking to extend his life. Does she?
I don't think so either. I mean, she overhears a lot in the Baiju story quest. She's always like sneaking around listening to us.
Right, but before that,
I don't think she knows.
Yeah.
Which brings me to my favorite Hu Tao relationship, because it comes full circle here, guys. We have Zhao. And first off, I want to say that Zhao is Zhongli's son. So, Zhongli is trying to hook up his son with Hu Tao, in my opinion. But also Zhao and Chi-Chi have like a relationship together too. So now that Hu Tao, respects Chi-Chi, I feel like that was a barrier that her and Zhao might have had in their relationship. And that is not something he has to worry about anymore. But I love the Zhao Hu Tao ship. And I think they're giving us like little breadcrumbs here and there. Zhao finds Hu Tao interesting, yet annoying, but he kind of finds her entertaining. You don't really have to worry about her growing boring, is what he says. I think it's fun that they both lose their HP when they do their elemental attacks. So it feels like, they're connected.
Mm-hmm.
In the Lantern Rite in 2023, she goes out of her way to invite Zhao to the dinner. She actually goes out to the inn and she talks with Vergolt, and Vergolt's like, well, he's upstairs, and she starts like going, Zhao, and he's like, stop making a scene, and she's like, well, I know I have to call your name to get your attention, so get over here. And she talks about how she wants him at this dinner, and he does eventually come, and he's like, oh my god, I didn't know all these people were gonna be here. And Hu Tao's like, just chill, like, we want you here, we're all vision holders, no one's gonna get hurt. And Zhongli explains after that flashback before Zhao shows up to the dinner how the Yakshas and the Hu family line have worked together for years. So it almost feels like they're like star-crossed lovers or like fated lovers in a sense. Because like their families have been working together forever. Zhao probably knows the first person that created the Wangsheng Funeral Parlor, which like if you put it that way, it seems bad. But we're gonna ignore that.
Creepy. I mean, creepy is her thing, so it works.
But during the 2024 Lantern Rite, we have what I think is one of the cutest moments. Zhao sees a kite that looks like Hu Tao's little ghost friend being flown, and he assumes that it's Hu Tao. So he pops over to say hello, and instead finds his father, Zhongli, flying the kite. And he's testing the kites out for Hu Tao. And I just was like, man, how embarrassed are you, Zhao, that you were caught trying to flirt with your dad's boss? Like, you popped over trying to flirt with her, trying to say hey to her. It's like the one person Zhao actually talks to outside of, like, Zhongli and the Traveler. And he shows up and it's his freaking dad. And he's like,
you know, you said this great little spot of the Lantern Rite, and I thought you were going to talk about the rap.
No, that was the 2023 Lantern Rite. And I think Zhao blocked it out just like I have.
Well, you know what's interesting with the rap? Because we bring up the rap a lot and we talk about it in our Lantern Rite episode too. But there's somebody on TikTok who took it and kind of like redubbed it a little bit, like kind of fixed it where, because like it sounds fine in all the other languages, but in English, it's just a lot of words. And it is something to do with like, because a lot of the translation does become longer words in English, but they changed it up where it sounds a little bit better. Not a lot, but a little bit.
I think it just proves that Hu Tao needs to stick to poetry and not song.
But what is rap? It's poetry.
Yeah, but she has to just spoken word it.
You know who would tell you it was poetry? Notorious B.I.G.
Yeah.
Just wrap that back up. And if you don't know, now you know.
Okay, but obviously I'm a Zhao Hu Tao shipper. Do you guys have any Hu Tao ships that you love?
I like that one actually. I'm kind of into it.
Yes, join the dark side.
I don't know. Here's the thing. I could put Hu Tao really with anyone, and the reason I say that is because she has a bunch of rings on her finger, which means she's bi. To me, at least, that's the universal sign of like having that much bling on your fingers. You are a bisexual. You are pansexual. Take whichever one. I love you. So like, I go back and forth. I'm like, she'd be really cute with Ganyu, Yanfei. Like, she could date anybody.
I will say that Yanfei is like the one person that doesn't say that she's strange. So, like most people in their voice lines about Hu Tao are like, oh, she's kind of weird, but it's fine. But Yanfei like gets kind of defensive about Hu Tao, and she gets really like upset that people judge Hu Tao. And it kind of gave me that vibe of like, shit, a girl's gotta make money somehow, leave her the fuck alone. I don't know. Not that I'm shipping Yanfei and Hu Tao, but I could understand a Hu Tao and Yanfei ship.
I've never actually put her with anybody. I would say that the first time I really even looked at her in that way was when I thought she was jealous about Kazuha. Because that whole scene cracked me up so much.
I mean, it is the most ridiculous. I remember watching it live together. One of us was playing it in like a Discord, and we were like, what the fuck is she doing?
Yeah, crying, laughing so much because she just pops up like, hey. But that was really the only time. I don't think I've ever been like, oh yeah, she would be good with this one or this one. I've never really seen it.
I mean, she's just so in love with her work.
Yeah.
A full workaholic.
But Hu Tao, I'm sorry, I got like totally distracted.
I know, it was so good.
Did you start writing Hu Tao Zhao fanfic?
Yeah, just in the moment.
Jotting down some ideas.
No,
She's like, what can we do with all these rings?
I will say that I've read a lot of the Hu Tao Zhao fan fictions that are out there, and there's not enough. Like, I guess, like, I don't know. For me, like I said, they just seem like such star-crossed lovers in a way, and it's very, like, unfortunate that there isn't more out there. Like, you don't find a lot of, like, fan art of them or fan fiction of them. You can bet that when Nat runs into them, they will be together. So, I also feel that way I'm a big Dan Hong and March 7th shipper for Star Rail, and there's really not enough about them either.
That's surprising.
You're going to have to find your niche in there. They got to be somewhere.
I hope so, damn it. I mean, I read a really good Dr. Ratio Adventurine fanfic the other day. Top tier.
Anybody needs a fanfic recommendation, Fiends is your lady.
I am so into it. I wonder if Hu Tao writes fanfiction.
Fanfiction poetry?
Yeah, about like her ancestors.
There is one thing that I just wanted to talk about with her, and it's just this one line. It's so ridiculous. It's just her weirdness, where when she's talking about her name, like in there, it's her voice line. It's like, my name. She goes, who, as in, who put me in this coffin? And Tao, as in, I can't get out of here. No, not funny.
Ridiculous.
It's so funny.
My favorite voice line about her is from Xinyan, who says that Hu Tao always greets her very cheerfully and tells her that she likes people who play with fire. They're good for business.
I mean, even her special dish is kind of silly because it's a ghostly march. It happens when you make vegetarian abalone with Hu Tao. But like the description says, like, it says a whole bunch of stuff about it. But then it says, after all, this plate is full of top quality, taste budding, blasting. Actually, what on earth is this stuff? So, and it's, you can almost hear her say it because she's just like, what the? She makes shit up, like she says in a few different stories and things where she's popped up, where I think early on in her story quest, she says like, oh, well, you're wood, this one's marble, this one's this, and that's how we tier our clients. And Mung is like, I didn't know that. And she's like, because I just made it up right now.
Hu Tao, one of her passives is that she just makes suspicious dishes. So like you can make anything with her and you have like a percentage of getting a suspicious dish.
You know who else that happens with? Oh yeah, so
Yeah.
suspicious to the T.
I feel like Amber should be added to that list after last week. Like they should just make her stuff suspicious too. And A just can't cook.
That's why she has Yaimiko.
Yes. Hu Tao, though, is such a goofball that they made in 2021, Hoyoverse changed their mascot from Paimon to Hu Tao for April Fool's Day, too.
That's cute.
They were like, let's roll with her. She would totally try to replace Paimon, and Paimon would be like, what? I'm the best travel guide. What are you doing? Well, on that note, I do actually think that Kirara is here.
She's got an intro song now.
I mean, she's getting a beautiful skin, so she's got to get an intro
Yeah,
song.
that is true. She is.
Best 4-star skin.
I don't like the hat.
Of course, you don't like the hat.
She turned into a cowgirl, right? She's got like a cowgirl hat.
Meow, y'all.
It's a musketeer hat.
I was just like, man, everybody's turning. First it was Beyonce, now it's Kirara. Everybody's turning into a cowboy.
Dad, stop that.
I have this big thing. I'm not a big fan of country music, and this is just a simple side note, is I'm not a big fan of country music. Just am not. But it's become one of those things where like my dislike for Honkai, it has to like grow into a much bigger deal than my sister loves country music. So I'm constantly like harassing her about it. So like when Beyonce came out as a country singer, I was just like, so what's all this going on? Like I was just a pain in the ass.
You're, I love
With
that.
Kirara, I was like, now I gotta like show my sister Kirara as a cowgirl. Would you listen to music from her?
From Kirara? I mean, more than Hu Tao.
Yeah.
But we do have a few messages from Kirara for today. So our first message comes from Wario, and they said, I'm really curious after the release of Chenyu Vale about whether Xingqiu has ever visited the Guha stronghold. Maybe there was some dialogue during a quest I missed, but I half expected him to show up at the end of the Guha quest line. So for travelers who don't know, in Chenyu Vale, you have like the origin story of the Guha clan. And you go through like this very interesting quest line with an old guy who's part of the clan.
Yeah. And Wario, I was sincerely disappointed that he didn't show up there. Like, or have anything to do with it. He could have shown off his new little outfit too.
Yeah, exactly. Because his new outfit came out with the release of Chenyu Vale, and it's just like, what a missed opportunity. What a missed moment.
Well, it's interesting because the outfit was technically a Lantern Rite outfit.
Yeah, but it was like around the same time.
Well, Lantern Rite, Chenyu Vale, and Cloud Retainer story quest all came out at the same time. So it was like a lot happening at once. So I think I haven't done the Cloud Retainer story quest, but I've been told by Brandon that Xingqiu may pop up in that.
You need to do that damn quest.
I know. Well, I was telling Brandon the other day that I finally finished what I consider my Piece de Resistance achievement in Genshin, which is that I 100%ed all of my nation exploration and achievements.
Yo.
Congratulations.
I have no achievements for any of the nations that have to get done, and every area across Teyvat is 100%ed in the exploration, which is very exciting. So now I can focus on story quests. It was just what I was telling Brandon, but it's very confusing too because Xingqiu's outfit, while it was a Lantern Rite exclusive fit, it's a Fontaine fit. So there's a lot of like, why did he get a Fontaine fit in the middle of Lantern Rite as well? It's just a little weird.
It's strange.
And the outfit is described as formal wear prepared by the Feiyun Commerce Guild for him. So it's just like, there's a lot that goes in. Like, it has a very long description, but it's described mostly as his fun wear from the Commerce Guild. So I don't know. It's just weird.
Well, I just did want to point out that they do talk about Xingqiu in that Shenyu Vale quest where they're at the Guhua ruins.
Traveler brings him up, right?
I think Traveler and Paimon bring him up. Then I think one of the Guhua people brings him up later as well.
Okay.
But it's just like, they're just sort of mentioning him. It's not super significant.
It's like, oh, we know a Guha person.
Yeah, like maybe he will actually like revitalize us. Maybe he's our last hope.
And doesn't Xingqiu come up in like one of the main story quests of Shenyu Vale too, where we're pretending to be the young lord of the Feiyun Commerce Guild?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, so Xingqiu not showing up at all in Shenyu Vale is just so weird because they were expecting him.
Yeah.
But Wario, we agree. Thank you for your message. Our next message comes from Valiant. They said, I might be reaching with this one, but Urabashi reminds me of the fall of man in Christianity, but in reverse. In the Bible, Satan as a snake convinces Adam and Eve to disobey God, which in turn gets them thrown out of the Garden of Eden, while Satan goes on his way, causing more issues. Urabashi comes down to Enkanomiya, to a people being plagued by darkness and beasts. He then helps them and eventually gets them out of Enkanomiya, but ultimately dies in the process. It feels like a play on paying for others' actions to help others. Like how Focalors had to clutch for the previous Hydro Archon to save Fontaine, ultimately leading to her death. Just a thought.
I think that's really astute and absolute. Like, I never thought of that, but it makes complete sense. Like, and they love to play with Christianity in this game. And like twist things around. I mean, it's like you have the gods being named after demons, for example. So it makes a lot of sense that they would try to use that and flip it around and tell it in a completely different way. So yeah, as soon as I read that question, I was like, oh, absolutely. They must have been doing that on purpose.
Plus, they originally followed Ouroboros, which was another snake deity, moved to a sun god, far more reminiscent of like the Christian god. Sorry. And then they went back to the snake because he had some good ideas.
Yeah, I mean, it also makes me think, the snake convinced Adam and Eve to eat the apple, right? Did Urabashi convince the people of Enkanomiya to come up when they shouldn't have? Like, is them leaving Enkanomiya them being kicked out of the Garden of Eden?
Oh.
Which was like a safe place against the archons?
I don't know. It feels like it's more hell-like than a Garden of Eden, but that's something that they would do too, is like draw two parallels that also conflict. Like, I mean, the convincing the people to bite the apple could be convincing them to stop worshiping the Dainichi Mikoshi.
Yeah, but even like if you think about the hellscape that Teyvat might have been during the Archon War, the people of Enkanomiya might not have realized how lucky they were to not be there.
True.
So the idea that like this is a secret Garden of Eden almost, that they decide to eventually leave, and then they're like, ugh, the gods again, damn it.
Yeah.
They're taking our visions. Fuck. That's just a random thought about it.
Yeah, no, I like it.
But thank you, Valiant, for your question.
Thank you.
With that being said, I do think that's all the time we have for today. Thank you, travelers, for talking about another Pyro gal with us. My favorite. Thank you for indulging me in my Zhao ship. Even though Brandon agrees. Brandon, I didn't know until today that you agreed with me. So I'm really, really hyped.
Yeah, I'm not like obsessed with them, but I like the idea of it together. It makes sense to me. They work in my eyes.
That being said, if you like this episode or you didn't, let us know what you think by emailing us at talesoftevatpod@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Instagram, Tales of Teyvat Pod, or on Twitter, Tales of Teyvat. And officially, as you guys know, you can join our Shades of Teyvat Discord server, which is a collaborative server with the Shade Chamber podcast, where you can come in and you can talk Genshin lore, Honkai Star Rail to Tiff's hatred, talk about general life things. We do some spontaneous streaming in there as well. So definitely check it out. We have a link in the episode description as well as on our website and on our link in bios on social media. So please feel free to check that out. Next week, we will be talking about the event Labyrinth Warriors, bringing us not only to Inazuma, but featuring Leeway characters. So think about that. Till next time, travelers. Safe journeys, travelers. We'll see you next time.
Bye, versemongers of the darkest alleys. I love that that's the name that she gave herself.